The moment these two aircraft show up, the way the battlefield operates changes immediately. One can strike from beyond the reach of most medium-range air defense systems. The other flies so low that it's within range of machine guns, anti-aircraft cannons, and even shoulder-fired missiles. These are the F-15E Strike Eagle and the A-10 Thunderbolt II. They are not two versions of the same idea. They are two completely different solutions to the same problem: how to destroy a target and still survive. The F-15E Strike Eagle is built around a very clear principle. Don't enter danger unless you have to. It flies fast, supersonic, and carries precision-guided weapons like JDAMs and laser-guided bombs. That allows it to strike targets from tens of kilometers away. In many cases, the enemy only realizes what's happening when the weapon is already falling. The A-10 Thunderbolt II takes the opposite approach. It exists for situations where targets cannot be handled from a distance. For example, when the target is close to friendly forces, or when the enemy is constantly moving within a confined area. In those situations, long-range strikes can easily go wrong. So the A-10 goes in, low, slow, eyes on the target, and engages directly. This difference starts at the design level. The F-15E is built on the idea of strike before being touched. Twin powerful engines, heavy payload, and advanced sensors allow it to detect and lock targets from afar. It doesn't need to see the target with its own eyes to hit accurately. The A-10, on the other hand, is designed with the opposite assumption: it will be shot at. So the cockpit is heavily armored. Flight controls have mechanical backups. The engines are spaced apart to reduce the chance of both being taken out at once. These aren't extra features. They are what allow it to survive. The next key difference is how they process information. The F-15E operates on data, target coordinates, reconnaissance imagery, input from airborne early warning systems. All of this is combined into a complete picture, and the strike is executed based on that picture. The A-10 operates in real time. The pilot sees the battlefield directly, receives input from ground forces, confirms visually, and only then engages. This creates a critical distinction. The F-15E depends on the accuracy of its data. If the data is correct, it is extremely effective. If the data is off, the strike is still precise but hits the wrong target. The A-10 reduces its reliance on remote data. It verifies the target on site. But in exchange, it accepts greater risk. This difference becomes most visible in their weapons. The F-15E uses precision-guided munitions. It can hit targets from outside the engagement range of systems like Buk or Tor under certain conditions. It doesn't need multiple attack runs. One pass, one strike, and it's gone. The A-10 relies on direct firepower. Its nose-mounted GAU-8 cannon can fire thousands of rounds per minute, designed to destroy armored vehicles at close range. But to use it effectively, it has to get close. Very close. This is where the two philosophies fully diverge. One uses distance to reduce risk, the other uses proximity to increase control. Neither choice is free. The F-15E sacrifices direct visual awareness for safety. The A-10 sacrifices safety for immediate, on-the-ground control. And this leads to the real question. Not which aircraft is more powerful, but in what situation you are forced to choose one approach over the other. Because when everything is clear, when data is reliable, the F-15E is almost always the optimal choice. But when the battlefield becomes chaotic, when targets are constantly shifting, distance starts to lose its meaning. And that's when the A-10 comes in. But everything you've seen so far is only the surface. Once you move into real-world scenarios, where data is imperfect and threats are very real, the difference between these two approaches becomes far more pronounced. When you step into a real battlefield, the question is no longer what weapons you have, but how accurate your information actually is. The F-15E Strike Eagle performs best when the target is clearly defined. For example, an ammunition depot, a fixed position, or an air defense system with known coordinates. In those cases, it can use JDAMs or laser-guided bombs to strike from long range. The margin of error is very low, and the time spent exposed to danger is minimal. But there's something important to understand. JDAM relies on GPS. If the signal is jammed, accuracy drops. Laser-guided bombs require continuous target illumination. If the target moves or becomes obscured, effectiveness decreases. In other words, the F-15E is extremely powerful, but under stable information conditions. Once those conditions break down, everything becomes more difficult. And this situation happens far more often than theory suggests. Targets move. The battlefield is obscured. Information updates lag behind real-time events. In those conditions, long-range strikes are no longer as reliable as they appear on paper. This is where the A-10 Thunderbolt II comes into its own. The A-10 doesn't need perfect coordinates in advance. It enters the area, receives direct input from ground forces, identifies the target visually, and engages immediately. Not once, but multiple times if necessary. This becomes critical in chaotic situations. For example, when ground forces are under pressure from constantly moving targets, a long-range bomb might miss, or worse, endanger friendly forces. But the A-10 can adjust each attack run. If it's wrong, it stops. If it's right, it fires. This is where theory cannot replace reality. But to do this, it has to get very close, within range of 12.7mm machine guns, within range of 23mm anti-aircraft cannons, and especially within range of shoulder-fired missiles like Stinger. This is not theoretical. During the Gulf War and later operations, there have been many cases where A-10s were hit, and still made it back. Aircraft returning with holes in the fuselage, with one engine damaged, yet still able to fly, still able to land. That's why the A-10 looks rugged and simple. Not because it lacks technology, but because it's optimized to survive in that environment. The F-15E, on the other hand, avoids this scenario entirely. It doesn't go deep unless necessary. Instead, it can strike targets like radar systems or ammunition depots from a distance, before those threats even have time to respond. This creates a very clear division on the battlefield. The F-15E handles targets that can be clearly defined from afar. The A-10 handles situations that cannot be solved by data alone. One solves coordinates, the other solves situations, and this difference creates a very real effect. The F-15E arrives, strikes, and leaves. High impact, but in bursts. The A-10 stays, circling the area, observing continuously, reacting the moment something changes. That presence alone changes how the battlefield operates, not through one decisive strike, but through constant intervention. But the cost is clear. It is always inside the danger zone, always at risk of being hit, with no protection from distance. And this is the most important point. It's not about which aircraft is better, but what kind of problem you're dealing with. If the target is clear, the data is reliable, and risk needs to be minimized. The F-15E is the logical choice. But if the situation is constantly changing, the target is unclear, and immediate reaction is required. The A-10 becomes almost irreplaceable. These two approaches don't eliminate each other. They coexist, because the battlefield always presents both types of problems. But as technology evolves, as GPS jamming becomes more common, and as air defense systems react faster, the question is no longer as simple as before. Which approach will still hold the advantage in the future? As we move into the future, the fastest changing element is not the aircraft, but the environment around them. Modern air defense systems like the S-300 or S-400 can detect targets from long range, track them continuously, and engage before an aircraft can even get close. That makes the idea of a safe distance much harder to maintain. Even for the F-15E Strike Eagle, staying outside the danger zone is no longer simple. It can still strike from afar, but it now depends more heavily on first degrading or breaking the air defense network. If the radar is still active, if the network is still functioning, then even long-range approaches carry real risk. This is where modern warfare changes the game. It's no longer just about flying high or flying low. It's about whether you control the environment. Meanwhile, the A-10 Thunderbolt II faces a different challenge. Not range, but threat density. Short-range systems like Pantsir or Tor can react extremely quickly to low-flying targets. The time from detection to engagement can be measured in seconds. This makes loitering over the same area far more dangerous than before. And this is what narrows the role of the A-10. Not because it's ineffective, but because the space where it can operate safely is shrinking. At the same time, another problem emerges. The battlefield is becoming increasingly dependent on systems, GPS, communications, real-time data. If these are jammed or disrupted, the entire long-range strike chain begins to break down. JDAM loses accuracy. Target information stops updating. Decisions slow down. This is where the F-15E is no longer immune. Distance no longer guarantees safety if the information itself cannot be trusted. And at this point, the two philosophies reappear more clearly than ever. The F-15E relies on systems to maintain its advantage. The A-10 relies on direct presence to maintain control. One is strongest when systems work perfectly. The other becomes valuable when they don't. And this is why neither has disappeared. The future is unlikely to be about complete replacement, but clearer specialization. The F-15E will continue operating in high-threat environments where long-range strikes are needed to destroy targets before closing in. The A-10, or similar concepts, will operate in more controlled environments where long-range threats have been reduced and direct support is required. At the same time, a new factor is shifting the balance: unmanned aircraft. They can fly low, they can accept high levels of risk, and they don't put a pilot in danger. In many missions, they are already replacing part of the role once filled by the A-10. But there is still a clear limitation: the ability to distinguish targets in complex environments, the ability to make immediate decisions as situations change. These are still things humans do better, and that is why the role of direct presence has not disappeared entirely. Looking at the bigger picture, this is not just a story about two aircraft. It is a story about two ways of managing risk. One tries to eliminate risk through distance and technology. The other accepts risk in order to maintain control on the ground. Neither approach is universally correct, only more suitable for a given environment. And in war, the environment is always changing. That's why, even as technology advances and threats evolve, both approaches continue to exist. Not because they are the same, but because they solve two different problems that the battlefield will always create.